Hello, and today's lesson we're looking at the environmental impacts of mineral extraction. So we'll look at land take, habitat loss, loss of amenity, dust, noise, turbid drainage water, and spoil disposal, including aesthetic, stability, and leachate. It's quite a lot to get through, so let's get on with it. The first one then is land take. So this is the idea that um, most human activities we have a choice where we build things. So roads, houses, um, all of these sort of things, they can be put where they are going to fit most appropriately within a landscape. However, mining has no choice because it has to be built or done where the deposit is found. So this means that there is a big or high likelihood of conflict because of limited choice of locations. We have to build a mine where the mineral is. So when we are mining, the amount of land needed is great because we are going to make a void. So this is where the mine itself is, where we've dug stuff out of the ground. We need land for buildings, for access routes, so like roads and things like that. We're going to have to dump the overburden somewhere. And we are going to have to dump spoil if we are doing any sort of processing. And then we also have a buffer zone potentially, which will take up room in itself. So that's between the neighbors and whatever else is going on. And we find that deep mining, where we drill a shaft down, is going to generally result in a less impact. So we've got our overburden is going to be less. We have our mine buildings and our access routes and all that sort of stuff. But basically, it's going to have less of an impact than perhaps open cast mining. For a start, it can't go vertically down to the same depth. You can see that there's a huge void here, which takes up lots of space. All the overburden has to be placed somewhere. And then you're going to have a big buffer zone as well to try and prevent conflicts with neighboring communities or something like that. What you can find is that this overburden can be used to backfill the void once you've finished or as you progress through your deposit. But that is not always the case. So next one then is habitat loss. So we are going to have habitat loss as we are dumping overburden and spoil. These are going to remove habitat. And then also the void itself removes habitat by taking up some of the land that was there before. And we find also, if we are looking at things like sediments from watercourses like rivers or the ocean. Quite often a lot of aggregates that we extract, things like gravel and sand. These are dredged. So we have a barge that comes along, and it will, if it's particularly deep, have a suction device that will draw up aggregates from the bed of the watercourse, and these will be deposited in the barge for use on land after a bit of process, take the salt out and stuff like that. And this is clearly going to cause damage to any benthic organisms that are found here. So to avoid this, what they like to do is to work in areas with fast currents, and they find that areas with fast currents have less benthic organisms, just because of the speed of water means that all this material is moving around a lot more and things can't get rooted or established. So they prefer to dredge those locations to avoid causing that habitat loss. Loss of amenity then. This is where we see things like when we are digging out our mine, it's going to leave a large visual impact on the void, especially if it's open cast. And you will have large spoil heaps or overburden. You will have your roads leading up to some quite significant, often industrial looking buildings which do not sit well within a landscape. And all of these things can damage people's like aesthetics of the environment, which means how it looks. So instead of looking out over a green and pleasant land, they're looking at a sort of industrial landscape, and that can damage things like tourist industry and things like that. So that's a loss of amenity. Next one then is dust. So dust, if we have things like blasting going on where they drill holes into a rock face and place tamp explosives into them. These are used to break up the rock by blasting, but that will produce huge plumes of dust, and any prevailing wind will blow this dust a long way, potentially impacting neighbouring properties or habitats. So if we have old Mrs. Miggins here with a washing line on the and her best sheets on the line, they're going to get covered in dust. Alternatively, if you have things like an acidic peat bog in the surroundings, and this is limestone dust, so that's calcium carbonate, and if this gets deposited onto our bog, which is acidic, you might find that the pH is raised by the limestone dust, affecting the plant community found in that acidic bog, because it's no longer acidic, it's actually now becoming more alkaline. And if it's a sensitive habitat that's quite rare, then this could be seen as quite a problem. And the other thing that causes dust, a lot of dust at least, is things like vehicle movements. So large vehicles moving around site, they are going to generate dust from the movement of their wheels. Wet material can get clogged onto it and then drop off, generating dust on access roads as well. And these access roads typically are more likely to be quite close to our neighbouring properties, just because that's where like roads to access the site may be. So vehicles.